Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that makes this exit for podcast. You know, we talk comics. Let's get right into it. My goodness, we have not talked about comics in a hot minute.
No, we sure have not.
It's been a sec.
Yeah. And that is significant.
Yeah, you know, it's not that I don't want to talk about comics lately, but like when From the Ashes started, I knew that it was sort of like, this is not my fandom moment. You know what I mean? And like, it's cool to not have your fandom moment, right? Like you can jump off of an artist, right? Like, and like get back into their music later on. You can jump out of an actor's career and be like, I'm going to skip this movie. This one sucks. You don't have to be beholden to a studio. You can be like, man, I like things that Disney does, but there's practices that bug me, so I'm not going to give them all my money, right? But like comics really don't want you to think that's an option. And so when you try to step away from comics, the first thing they tell you is little comic babies everywhere are going to go without ink that night and they won't be fed. And it's because of you. And I feel like I'm a little bit here under duress, but it's not because I don't love comics, and it's not because I don't love talking about comics with you. It's because I don't love the state of comics and I don't love the state of the industry. And I feel a little not happy about it.
I mean, let's be really upfront with everybody, because I think we're excited about the fact that we are going to be kind of changing up the way we do comics coverage, because of exactly what we're talking about here. Because this thing of doing books every week the way we have been, I mean, you know, again, like telling everybody where we're at and what's going on. Like some of the reason why we haven't been doing comics every Wednesday is just because like life stuff has gotten in the way and we've been busy and like just the timing hasn't worked out for certain broadcasts. But then other times it has been because we don't have anything to like, there's nothing that he and I are excited about together. And there's no theme that works. Like there's nothing bringing us to the books. There's also just like there's weird timing around like everything is One World Under Doom now, and we do
Except it's not.
Except it's well, so yeah, so like there are weeks where we could talk about One World Under Doom, except the books that were out that week were like kind of the ones we didn't want to cover, and then the ones that we did were in a weird place. Like too many were on issue 1, but others were on issue 3, and it just kind of got all over the place. So we love doing Wednesday coverage. We do want to talk comics. We do want to talk the industry. And as Break Yourself said, comics failed us, not the other way around. Failed the audiences, and are continuing to. And it's something that we have talked about. We talked about all our complaints, but we're going to be looking at finding different ways to talk about comics so that we can talk about the stuff that we love, and we can talk about the stuff that interests us, and we can talk about the stuff that is interesting. But we really have tried, and even finding 2 books from Marvel and 2 books from DC in a given week that are compelling just on their own merit and worth stopping and analyzing in the last 6 weeks, that has been a tough job to pull off every week by like a lot. And that's not our fault.
You had even said something about like theme weeks, and I completely, it's not our fault. And like, I was thinking about it and I'm like, okay, if I walked into a Benjamin Moore paint and just started watching sad people do sad things in the paint store, sometimes that's about as much color is on the page and about as much things going on. It is that level of like, they're just drawing it out. It's just a lot of color. It's just a lot of pretty. It's just a lot of look around. Like, and I specifically use a paint store as an example because the paint store is filled with tons of beautiful color, but it's not telling a story. And like, I feel so much like, Break Yourself says, welcome to the NYC subway. Boy, I wish this had a trajectory like a subway train did. Because I'm definitely paying subway prices. Hey, thanks, New York. I want comics congestion pricing. When you release too many stupid fucking comics, I get to charge Marvel. I get to charge them and say, hey guys, you're releasing too many stupid books. And I don't think any one book is stupid. And that's not what I'm trying to say. I think all of the creators are doing a great job. I think all of the creators are doing the best they can. The problem is there's no cohesive line. It really doesn't feel like a house. It feels like a bunch of rooms. There's DC is not necessarily doing much better because I feel like we're all reading DC for the absolutes, and that's not the fuck. Because I definitely hated parts of this Superman Unlimited book that was essentially a well-illustrated Wikipedia. Same for Spider-Man Wolverine. Stop selling me well-illustrated Wikipedias.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that early, because we haven't had a chance to talk behind the scenes about the books that we read today, but I mean, like, how many hundreds of Superman introductions have been published? And this was the thing I said, I've said many times because I am newer to DC, is like, I'm fine with the big beats of Superman. And it's why, I'm fine with the big beats of Batman. So I know he's Bruce Wayne. I know his parents are Thomas and Martha. So, if I see
my mom's name is Martha.
Well, I guess this entire universe has significance then. If I see a reference to Thomas and Martha, I get that we're talking about Bruce Wayne's parents. And similarly, I know Ma and Pa Kent are Martha and Benjamin.
John.
Greg.
John Kent.
Leo, got it.
Leo, the white lady from Charmed.
Duke.
So, but anyway, I know the basics of the Kent parents. So it can be fun to get a Batman Dark Ages, which is like, hey, we're going to go back and look at those things, but they're going to be drawn by Mike Allred, and they're going to be a little silly. Like, there's going to be something weird going on. We're gonna hyper stylize it, and we'll fictionalize it in a way that spins it interestingly. But you do have to do that. And I feel like a lot of times the big two really just do try and sell us, exactly as you said, glorified Wikipedia articles on stuff that doesn't need it. Like, I need a glorified Wikipedia article on Zatanna. Bad example because I actually know a lot about her, but I still want it because there's a lot that I don't know, and there's a lot that I've missed in between when I read her in Seven Soldiers and today.
And what's Vertigo? What's Black Label?
Yeah. And there are Marvel characters that I need that for, and I would buy it for, like, even if I know a lot about them, just like to get it organized in my own head beautifully visually. But selling it to me on Wolverine or Captain America or Spider-Man or Superman is just kind of like, no, guys, this is rude. This is unfair that you tricked me into paying for this.
It is some rude ass titties of them.
Yes.
The thing that bothers me the most in that regard, the thing that exactly hits what you're saying for me, is they're not doing it newly. They're doing it reissuedly. I'm not getting significant updates that change the way we think about canon because time has progressed so much and technology has changed so much that it's time to revise the origin. I'm not getting what I would maybe think of as thoughtful reinterpretations. I'm getting, wait a minute, okay, these kids that would be reading are 14, so their parents are probably somewhere between 35 and 45, so that would mean that they were kids in the 90s. They remember Death of Superman. Squish that in real quick. Might be in the movie. Put a lot of emphasis on crypto. And like, it is getting to be, crypto is coming up so much.
Crypto's had the biggest 2 weeks of his life.
This is cryptocurrency. He's Bitcoin now. And it is just too much. And so I'm hoping that the lessons that they learn here are that a lot of us are getting up here and being like, excuse me, but I need to kick you guys into gear because I'm, as Break Yourself said, upset that I have more imagination than they're letting these authors have. Because they're not letting these authors create, they're letting them create by committee. Creating by committee is always a delicate debacle at best. So I'm hoping, for everyone's sake, that this is like the last time like, era-wise, getting real angry about this. But like, yeah, man, that's why I'm not buying anything right now.
Yeah. And just to dive right into it a little bit, Spider-Man and Wolverine is a book that got published this week. Just immediately, like, the retcon of, we'll be spoiling things. I'm doing you a favor by keeping you away from this book if you haven't read it. The retcon of Logan. Yeah, exactly. Logan was on the plane that killed Peter Parker's parents. This is Bucky killed the Starks in the MCU. This is
that time that Blanche slept with Rose's husband.
Did that happen?
It's an episode where Rose is going through an old camera, and it's Charlie's old camera, and Blanche is in bed in a picture with him, and it turns out it's all double exposures. That's where we find out that her name is Blanche Elizabeth Devereaux. So all of her journals are labeled bed. And she likes to rate how the men did. She gives them gold stars if they're great. And ultimately, it turns out the silver stars mean she ran out of gold stars. So...
Oh, that's beautiful. That's very funny. It's okay. So first off, I had a moment here where taking it back to the Marvel and DC of it all, I sat to myself and said, what is this book? Spider-Man and Wolverine. Where does it fit? Because every time we do a DC book, that is my complaint. Is I don't know where it fits. I don't know what this story is. Is it a retcon? Is it current continuity? If it's current continuity, why is this thing happening that I don't understand? If it's a retcon, where does it take place? If it's a totally different side universe, why am I not told what universe number it is? Like, what's happening here? And I think Marvel does this right, and DC doesn't do it as right. No. In fact, Marvel, I realized, like, if you look through a given 4 weeks at Marvel, they're basically doing the exact same thing. This one happens to ostensibly take place relatively presently because because Spider-Man is dating the same person, a woman who doesn't matter and will never come up again, but mattered to Zeb Wells, who created her and had Spider-Man date her.
I wish she was a white gay man so I could use offensive slurs about her.
Yes.
Just to represent how completely unimportant she is.
Yeah, I do think she may have some characteristic stand-ins with Heidi, what's her, Zeb Wells' ex-wife.
Oh, I was like, from Eurovision?
Yeah.
That's Hazel. Never mind.
So that it's taking place relatively currently in Spider-Man's continuity, but the idea that Logan is taking time off of his being a rogue's X-Man to go do this doesn't really... It's not that, I mean, like, because Wolverine's everywhere all the time. Like, I can believe it, but it also doesn't it never holds water. I'm never into that idea. I always want, if we're going to do that, I want the person to show up in Gale's X-Men run and go, Wolverine, I need you to pull out and go to New York. And then when we see him so because there's no real reference to why Wolverine is suddenly out doing this, it is yet another time where I'm like, this vaguely could be this could be Earth 619. This could be Earth, 626, whatever. And Andrew asking when we're going to have gay Spider-Man and Break Yourself, asking, are you sure we haven't already? Yeah, I mean, we do have a gay spider person.
I'm Web Weaver. Thwip, fashion, mama. So.
Yeah. This book ostensibly is happening and like is real and is taking place in current continuity, but there's no reason to know that it is, and there's no reason to know that it isn't. I really like the Kari Andrews art. I love Kari Andrews art, and I have a lot of fun with it.
Oh, he's one of the best visual storytellers of his generation. I just wish he could get through an issue without drawing a gravestone.
It just makes things a little easier.
Where's the spider dick? I'm waiting.
I want to give somebody credit, because I don't know if this came up in the script or in the art, but because we've been seeing way too much of it from your Zeb Wells's and your Jed McKay's. I loved that both the heroes got confronted with two villains and they all just fought. And we did not do Spider-Man fights his villain, Kraven, Wolverine fights his villain, Omega Red. They're both stymied until they switch dance partners, and then the whole thing is solved. Immediately Omega Red goes for Spider-Man, immediately Kraven goes for Wolverine, and they just kind of all go back and forth and fight. And honestly, where I am with comics at this point in life is that's enough to impress me. Just having a fight where we are having a fight scene where the two characters fight in a somewhat more compelling, less than standard way than every other book does it is enough for me to go like, this was not the worst thing I read in quite some time. But other than that, I don't know that I needed Mark Guggenheim's take on Logan's spy years. I don't know that I ever need anybody's take on Logan's spy years. Let's be really fucking clear about that. I don't care about pulling in Wolverine into Cold War espionage. Especially now, because like all of the stuff that Logan did could have happened after the invasion of Iraq in terms of just timeline scaling, and so it wouldn't be Cold War anymore, it would be War on Terror. But Logan's, and because he's very old, I know that it can still be the Cold War, but I just don't care.
Blarg, blarg, blarg. Yeah.
And so adding to that, Spider-Man's parents, who because of time shifting do actually have to have been spies during the War on Terror. They cannot have been Cold War spies. Maybe you could say post Desert Storm, but that's about it. Like they can't really, at that point, the Cold War is basically, they can't really be Cold War spies. They have to be counter-terrorist spies. So I just don't know what we're doing here. And I don't care about Mark Guggenheim's take on it.
I love that we keep saying Guggenheim a little bit like his name is too fun not to make it a little insulting. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I'm sick of the fucking Guggenheims. I know he's not one of them, but I just,
Well, you have a museum, and we'll see what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
As Kevo points out in the chat, Homer and Marge now have grown up in the 90s, and Tim Meadows left SNL before they graduated high school. By shifting timescale. Yikes. And the reason I said blarg, blarg, blarg is because it wasn't at you. It's at this idea that people are like, if you change the era something happened, it invalidates the storytelling. Instead of recognizing that if you're going to keep these characters timeless, they must remain timeless. What I wonder if comics would be better doing going forward, and I know that there's a little bit to be said about the disingenuity of creating fictional crises and fictional wars, but I wonder if the thing that it would be better to do going forward would be to avoid things like the war in Afghanistan, or to avoid things like World War, whatever number they're going to need to start dialing into, and just start having the Latvian-Sokovian war, and start mass producing artificial wars within the confines of the comics that allow them to get around needing to time things in the real world.
I don't think that is the worst idea, and my question about that would be, that was Marvel's pitch for a very long time. That is the world outside your window, where DC, Gotham and Metropolis don't exist. Like even though New York and Chicago also exist in the DC universe, like Gotham and Metropolis are where the things happen, and DC has done essentially that. They have sidestepped a lot of real world events because their world is not really our world. And Marvel's whole pitch has been, it is our world, just Doctor Strange is in it. But at this point, I think that has hit a place of diminishing returns, especially because they have become so obsessed with like youth and vitality. So Spider-Man, has to be 23, which means that means he was born in 2002. So again, his parents can't have been spies during the Cold War. And if Cyclops is 25, same thing, born in 2000. So like Harry's hideaway was a smoke shop. I don't know, like these things can't be what they were. And I like when they update them, but I also I like when they update things, but I also at this point would so much prefer that Spider-Man be 40, that Cyclops be in his mid 40s, and I would prefer that the world be our world for the most part. Shift the time scales a little bit, but I would like this will never happen because Magneto has to have gone through the Holocaust. Cap has to have gone down in World War II and missed the Cold War. Like the Cold War has to have happened and Cap has to have missed it, or a chunk of it, because it comes out in the fucking 70s. See, this is the problem. I like that the real world events are there, and I like the back and forth negotiation, but it does have to come with some sacrifices, and Marvel has never been willing to make the hard calls. And so we are left in this state where the hard call that they have decided is who are we going to put front facing for everybody to throw tomatoes at because he's a giant dick. And it's Tom Brevoort at this point, who will just come in and tell you that you're an asshole if you think that Spider-Man should be 40.
Well, it can't be Akira Yoshida because no one's ever seen them in public.
Truly is a mystery where he goes and how he gets there.
I actually just want to dial into something you said. Not that you're wrong. They're wrong, but I agree with your idea. You said that Magneto can't age up. Yeah, he can. When he first used his powers during the Holocaust, he wound up going into like one of his magnetic body comas that he's able to regenerate from, that he's literally gone into like a dozen times in canon.
Oh, so, no, I agree.
I knew you would. That's why I'm like, you're not wrong. They're wrong that they won't let it happen.
Right, the Holocaust has to have happened. Like the Marvel universe can never be so fictionalized that the Holocaust didn't happen,
and it should never be.
And because Magneto was a Holocaust, but we have really good explanations. Like really good. We have Magneto's a good example because he was de-aged to a baby. The magnets keep him youthful. Like there's so many reasons why Magneto is over 100 years old now, and that's fine. It's tough because Gabrielle Haller is also a Holocaust survivor who had a child who is 20.
Oh, she had a cryptid pregnancy.
I mean, we've got options here, man. Like we really, really do. Gabrielle Haller could also still be 100, but then we've got, I don't know. There's ways around it. I'm willing to let it happen.
Gabrielle Haller would vote it in Eurovision the way all things
went. We need to do the negotiation, and the negotiation isn't just paving over things time and time again and keeping everybody young. Vision, Franklin, these characters that warp and control reality, who also have Franklin being born is a canon Marvel event from early in its continuity, and which is being used as an anchor event for the movies too. The whole point is Sue is pregnant with Franklin when this movie starts. That is a reveal that they probably should not have put in the fucking trailer, guys. What a nice moment.
Snapple Ken would have revealed it.
You're on fire today. These canon events with these insanely powerful characters kind of could be a thing that you can use to play. Like my thing has always been, I think that there should be an event where something is wonky and something is weird, and ultimately the big reveal of the event is Franklin has been fucking around with the time scale the whole time because he can't handle getting older. He's confused. He's had his power since he was a baby. So in fact, everything has happened, and in fact, the X-Men were 16 in the 60s and were not much older in the 80s, and they experienced all that time because, you know, some combination of Franklin, of Legion, of all of these people that can do this stuff played around with time, and now they've all got to accept that they are whatever age they are, but have the memories of 60 years of continuity. I think that would actually be really fun and cool and meta and interesting, and would allow us to massage this stuff for another 60 years. But I don't think that just putting on a smiley face and giving us another Wolverine and Spider-Man book where Wolverine is 150 plus years old and was a spy in the Cold War and met these two people as spies in the Cold War who had a child who Tom Brevoort insists cannot be 30.
And it's frustrating because, you know, when they do things like this and they have these conflicting updates where now we have to find a way to rectify exactly what we're talking about, I wonder why they can't just say, this is the new canon. It's not a retcon in universe. This is just what it always was in universe. Just update it. Because, like, X-Men First Class, they have an Xbox.
Yeah.
And X-Men First Class is as canon as the original stories now. Because it gets referenced. Like, people reference Jeff Parker's First Class like it's canon. And that's, like, part of where Wanda is every ex-girl's bestie boo comes from, is just all of those Jeff Parker stories where they're so good. But he's just like, oh, by the way, Wanda was always their bestie boo, and you don't even have to worry. She's a Judy. And everybody's just like, oh, Judy. And like,
which derives from X-Men Evolution, where they just had Wanda and wanted to make her part of the youth that all those kids hang out with.
So it's just wonky.
Yeah.
And so, okay. Beautiful art, gorgeous art.
Really good art. And like, I don't mind an adventure with Spider-Man and Wolverine.
Same.
But I was just shocked. First, I was shocked to realize that I'm the asshole that says that DC's doing it wrong and Marvel is not. But in this case, I just sort of wish Marvel took from the DC playbook and didn't try and tell me that this is like a current story in Marvel continuity that I now need to reconcile. If it turns out in the end that Logan was actually present on the plane that where the Parkers went down, that will annoy me for the rest of my, if that's canon, that will annoy me for the rest of my life. But the idea of a Black Label or an Earth 612 where that did happen, sure, that I'm fine with, that I can deal with. And that the DC way is more to be like, it's not continuity, but it's not something you should forget forever. I don't know. Like, I'm starting to appreciate more and more their nebulous zone.
I really get where you're coming from, though. I think what's funny, it's almost counterintuitive, but like, I love if Logan was on the plane for realsies, and just to say why. He's an anchor being. Mm-hmm. They have made it clear that there are just certain beings in reality who are just that special. And they pop up at your local neighborhood event, and they are always hanging out, petting the local multiverse bodega cat, and they're just doing their thing. And Logan is that guy. Logan has had the Phoenix at the end of time. Logan has gone to... And like, the other thing is, this does nothing Jason Aaron's exact same book that's not done.
So I agree with you. I would like the idea, and I like where you're going with that too, except for my thing then is like, we have Nexus beings. Like that's a Marvel canon concept. So like now I actually need that I need that addressed.
I think it was for Logan. I think it was when he came back with the fire claws. Yeah. I think that, like, they were talking about how he's like magically special and stuff.
Yeah,
and, like,
I so maybe I want that referenced more. You know,
yeah,
maybe I want Logan in Gods. You know, to remind. You know what I'm saying? Like I want if you're gonna pull this shit, then I need it to be in the cosmogony when the cosmogony shows up.
Yeah,
and that's where I get a little lost, because I agree. I do like the idea that he was on the plane because I get titillated by those things. But again, my problem is twofold. One, that means Logan is too special, so we got to deal with that. Two, time-wise, it again just does not work, and I want us to deal with that. And that's like indicative of a huge part of my problems with Marvel these days. Those are the two things I want to deal with. I need to know how everybody thinks the universe mechanics run in the year of our Lord 2025. And given that is the year of our Lord 2025, I need to know how people think time works and how they're going to fix it, because it doesn't. And this book is just a reminder of all those things. Other than that, it's perfectly innocent. And it is just Spider-Man and Logan on an adventure by a guy who doesn't write either character particularly well. So Logan is particularly gruff, and Spider-Man is not particularly funny.
Flat again.
Yeah,
so
they're both flat in like opposite directions.
It's Deborah Messing in a compression top and a mirror. It's just flat on flat.
And that's fine. I don't know what to do with that. Whenever we get to Marvel books, I'm always like, that's fine, because it's not terrible. Like it's not offensive to me, but I know we can do better, and I want to hold everybody to a higher standard. But the book got published. Like, I'm not talking to you guys about scripts that we read that we're trying to get fixed. I'm talking to you about books that a script editor did read and went, I will say this should be published without sending it to a single person to be punched up. Or the people that punch stuff up at Marvel Comics are doing a bad job. Pick one.
You know, I'm struggled because I frustrate when I feel like I'm being mean to an industry, but an industry isn't a person, and I have bills. So until they give Mark Guggenheim the room to write a book that actually makes this affect other books in a clear way, and this isn't just going to be another, Jimmy Palmiotti's claws, we'll see. You know what I don't care about, though? Scarlet Witch by Steve Orlando is the most fascinating thing, because I'm so glad that Marvel came to the table and said, we need more women in comics. And they thought to themselves, who's a woman? Steve Orlando. And then they said to themselves, terrific. Let's put some amazing female artists on the book. Who's a woman? Russell Dowderman. Great. And now let's go from there. How can we show that she's a strong woman? Define her by her brother. Define her by her husband. Terrific. What else can we do to improve?
Wait, don't forget her sons and her dad's clone.
Oh my God, how did I forget her dad's clone and her sons? Oh my gosh. I don't like this book, and I feel so bad because Steve Orlando is a wonderfully communicative creator. He really is open with his thoughts, his feelings, the creation process. I don't think he did a bad job with this book, but I do believe the nature of the Marvel Universe, the shape it's taken, this color form belongs in a different set.
I agree. Because we are so not in a place where women are steadily writing the books that they ought to be writing and are keeping pace with their male creator co-workers in the field. Again, a man is writing Storm, a black man, which is better than a white man, but it is not a black woman. And there are plenty of black women who are available to write Storm. And I'm not going to speak on that one too much because it's not my community. And I do know many people, including black women in that community, who are very happy with the creative team on Storm. But I do think that's an example. We've had other ones. I'm not going to go through and name them all, but this book actually, Steve Orlando's gotten 2 shots and they have been perfectly fine shots. I'm going to, let that be what it is. This book could have been The Vision. This book could have been about The Vision featuring Scarlet Witch, and that would have been perfectly fine. And honestly, from this first issue, I imagine as time goes on, it'll be whatever it is, but you would not have needed to change a ton about this first issue and just have this book be called The Vision and have the first arc feature Scarlet Witch. That said, I have not even gotten on the soapbox yet. The soapbox involves Vision's wife and kids, and not the ones you're thinking of. Because god damn it, am I the only one that reads comic books? The Vision already had a wife and a lot of children in Rick Remender's Uncanny Avengers. And yes, that was a bad run, but it ended with the bonkers thing of the Vision having another synthezoid that he was insanely in love with and sent to another planet with an enormous clutch of eggs. And he was like, I'm going to never speak to them again because you can't lead two lives. Which, for one thing, is an insane thing to say, and fuck you to my dad, too. But
my secret wife has no problem with everything going on.
Yeah, you've got everything going for you in this world, friend. And what's so funny is I think those storylines have to have happened parallel, because I believe they both came out in 2015. So the Vision went from having a wife and kids to having a wife and kids. And I know we all love Viv and Vin, and I forget the wife's name, which is offensive of me, but
Fodder Dead Woman. I just looked it up. It's Fodder Dead Woman. That is her name.
Nailed it. I don't know, man. For as bad as the Remender run is, I did think at the time that was insanely wild that he created a wife for Vision, and then they had children, and then he sent them off to space. And it just drives me insane that nobody has ever brought it up again, but we deal with the other two, the wife and son who've been dead forever and never come back. And he's just always like, I'm really sad about that. But I got this other kid. What a scamp she is. Contest of Champions character that ruins my life all the time.
I'm a robot movie girl. You can expect to see me in a movie. I'm a robot girl.
I don't know, man. That's my soapbox. There's so much interesting stuff for every character and continuity, and I vacillate between not wanting to be one of those fans who's like, oh, but what about my thing? But I do kind of feel like if you are writing the Vision and Scarlet Witch, even if you just like wiki everything, like I feel like you can pull enough of a character background. It's not even like you have to deal with Remender's wife and kids, but to never mention them when he won't stop talking about his wife and kids and like his multiple wives and children, because Scarlet Witch.
What a Chris Pratt move.
Truly, thank you. Shout out to Jack, the truly and Anna. Love them both. I choose them.
I agree. Nobody ever said I'll be mom and then walked away harder than Anna Faris. Allison Janney, the best character on Lost. But the thing I think when you're talking about all of this, because I want to agree with you.
I just spouted a lot of nonsense, so you do not have to.
No, it was all real because like, not like exactly Jada Pinkett real, but like real. And the reason I want to say that is because like this book in particular is sort of like, oh yeah, Scarlet Witch and Simon have a weird relationship, but we're not going to get that into it. We're going to dab it lightly. Like, I mean, like Eurodab lightly. It was just barely there, and we kind of forgot it happened already. It was so uncomfortable because, like, one of the things that I personally really want to see happen with Scarlet Witch and Vision is make the move or don't. But one of the era shifts that we see happen with Marvel is like Scarlet Witch used to be kind of like a background joke, and now she's a lead thing because Elizabeth Olsen is fucking incredible in their role, and she changed everything for a lot of people who had inconsistent accents, and it was really exciting for her. And so now we're looking back and we're saying Vision was never that big a deal in the movies. He's not getting a lot of screen time. Quicksilver was more interesting when they couldn't call him Quicksilver than when he was Quicksilver. So we're not going to really see him too much in the movies. So we don't need to focus on that. So now Scarlet Witch is taken front and center. But that's never been how it's been treated. So her canon is being overlooked because it was never treated that seriously in the first place. And the people around her's canon is being overlooked to fit what they need them to be to work with her story now that she's the main character. The big problem here is a real a real fucking misunderstanding that I don't care about the Grim Reaper. I do care about the Grim Reaper. I don't want to see him. I care greatly that I don't want to see him. I don't. I love things about Power Man, Wonder Man, God, because it's the Power Man, Wonder Man, Power Girl, Wonder Woman thing.
Yeah.
They were literally created to spite the other company, right? Wonder Man only exists to spite Wonder Woman, and Power Man only exists to spite Power Girl, or Power Girl only exists to spite Power Man. That's the one. So, I don't care, and it's just one of those things where this is not my canon, but you can make me care about not my canon. People make me care about not my canon all the time. It's not Steve Orlando. It's this narrative that is not being given the room to actually flourish. I don't feel like I'm seeing the effects of Scarlet Witch's book in other books, so it's making it feel kind of like a dead end that I'm being asked to drop a lot of money on new number ones for, and I would really just rather read Steve Orlando's non-terrible Substack if he has one at a place that's non-terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. This is a third volume of a Scarlet Witch trilogy by Steve Orlando, all of which have been perfectly lovely stories. I don't know that a single one of them has moved the dial in her place in the Marvel universe. He acknowledges that she is on Jed McKay's Avengers team. Although again, I don't know how you have a day job like this given that, but whatever. Sure. This is again, the Spider-Man. I don't know how Wolverine is leaving to do that, but whatever. Yeah. Jed McKay doesn't really often reference that this is happening. And nobody else does either. I mean, like Hulkling and Wiccan aren't anywhere anyway for them to reference it, but they don't.
They're on the third cover of Space Fuck. What is Space Fuck called again?
Imperial,
thank you. Yeah. I was like Empire of the Stars. I don't remember.
But increasingly, I'm feeling like this is exclusively a Hulk story, so we'll talk about that in a few weeks. I don't know what to do.
Now there's tie-ins, and they're like one-shots written by other people, and they're called the Imperial War.
But literally all I see is like Jen in like Barbarella looks. That's all I know about this is Jen in Barbarella looks and a smoking Nova helmet that I've never cared about, and you could not pay me to. So Steve Orlando has these great ideas about Wanda, but again, Stevie Boo, they're all anchored to men in such a way, in so very many ways. I wish like one of these books had been about Darcy, one of these books had been about Wanda, and then one of them had been about Vision, maybe Hulkling. I don't know, like Steve Orlando as a queer man, I would have been perfectly happy to see him write queer male stories. There's no good way to have this guy writing so much Scarlet Witch. Like, if it's called Scarlet Witch and this dude is writing it, my question is, why isn't a woman writing it? If it's him writing other stories that feature her a lot, where's the stories that don't just feature her, but are written by women starring her? It is a very tough catch-22 situation. But what I do know, like you said, Grim Reaper is really kind of their Dr. Light post Sue Dibney. The character really stops mattering. The event is what matters. So the fact that, as Vision said, like the whole thing is Grim Reaper is buried in Vision's backyard because of that story where just suddenly out of nowhere, this really heinous murder happens that doesn't feel very super heroic, in the same way that, Dr. Light's enormous crime doesn't feel like a superhero thing. It's just an appalling sexual assault that happens in comics and is never really written with. And then that's all you ever have for that character. That character is only the weird crime that doesn't feel super heroic. And it's not, honestly, you work it the right way. It's tougher to do with Dr. Light, but you work it the right way, and it does become sort of like this untouchable canon event that things revolve around and are kind of interesting. It only works if you don't bring the character back too much. And again, Uncanny Avengers brought Grim Reaper back as one of the Apocalypse Twins horsemen. So we've kind of already done this story too. You have some very specific blinders towards Uncanny Avengers, Steve Orlando. And while it wasn't a good book, it was full of good ideas. And I'm interested, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what this can contribute to what's happening right now. I don't imagine I'm going to see this reflected in Avengers too much. And so I don't know. I don't really know how to absorb this book.
Yeah, so until then, I'm probably going to leave the rest of these issues for the trade or, Marvel Unlimited. It wasn't a bad issue, but I just don't know what I'm supposed to do with it.
Yeah, Russell Donovan's Russell Donovan's covers are always fantastic. The internal art, I want to make sure that I get the artist's name correct. Lorenzo Tometa. Very good. It really feels like there is this burgeoning house style that is created by all of these Stormbreaker Young Gun artists who are all like vaguely Italian. And I love them all. I love the house style, but it becomes very recognizable to the point of maybe a little boring. Again, it's Valerio Schiti. It's starting to even get that way with House of X. Why am I forgetting his name?
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
Bela Raz. There's these really gorgeous artist styles, but we're using them so much and they're so similar. They're similarly really clean and sexy, and they maybe are all just starting to bore me a smidge.
And I probably don't see them as, I get where you're coming from. I probably don't see them as too similar across the books because I feel like everyone's told to homogenize.
Yeah.
I feel like regardless of the style, I'm told that everyone has to have the same body proportions, the same faces. So like, I don't even disagree with your problem. I just think it's a bigger problem.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
And so, I definitely mean to be positive on these books, but I'm feeling it. So what do you say? We got final thoughts on Marvel and want to roll to DC?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep. I don't see myself continuing to read Wolverine and Spider-Man. I maybe will wait for the entire thing to come out, and then I do want to know what's up with Logan being on the Parker's plane. I will continue to read Vision and Scarlet Witch and Vision with some trepidation and with some real desire for it to matter in the greater Marvel universe. In some way that splits the difference between this is never spoken about in the other book that these two characters are in, and this creates like a blood hunt type event. Somewhere between those two is a happy medium where somehow somebody, like, what I really want is a new Force Works, a new West Coast Avengers, a team where Wanda is a leader in a little bit more of a spotlighty capacity, which I don't really think is Jed McKay's Avengers. But I don't know. I mean, I do think Steve Orlando is such a talent, and I do, I would just love to see a woman writing Scarlet Witch too, though.
And that's even where I was very grateful for over at DC Supergirl.
Yeah,
being,
man, woman writer and artist.
Yeah, and then Tamara Bonvillain being, the colorist, like all women across the board. And I'm gonna say something that's a little iffy, to be honest, but like I know a lot of Supergirl. This was a very Wikipedia issue. The point of the issue was that it was Wikipedia. The point of the issue was going over her history. It wasn't pretending to be an exciting new story that wasted an issue being flashbacks. It said this is a story about her history in forward. And so I was very excited.
This was not Wikipedia enough for me.
Interesting. I mean, like, without being like, they're like, oh, this is my old costume. This is my old magic comb. This is where I'm from. This is when I got here. Like,
yeah, but who the fuck are those people?
I don't know.
Because it's the large text block says that her parents sent her to Earth as a teenager, and of course it makes sense that Clark had parents because he was a baby. Who are those people? Why is she calling them mom and dad? She was a teenager who had parents.
Well, but her parents were dead.
Right, so who are those people?
The people who adopted her, like the Kents. Because at 14, you can't just live.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, you can, but that was not storytelling in the 70s and 60s.
I know. I hear you. It was more just like that. It's much less explained who, like, they spend a lot of time in that Superman Unlimited thing being like, we have found a baby. We will take the baby. The baby is asking about our wedding rings. Like,
he's correct. Women should all try to emulate Dan Slott.
You heard it here first, folks. They are very, very clear about what is going on.
Yes.
With Superman. It was a little. I still really loved this issue, but that was a thing for me where I was like, wow, they have been explaining a lot to just have her have other parents, which is just a smidge confusing. And there were a few other little things like that where I was like, this is just, like, I don't. Crypto being in all over the place this week. I need Crypto's Unlimited book just to get his full origin story too. Plus, I just like dogs.
Yeah, I mean, like, Crypto Kennel would be like one of the coolest little books.
Yeah.
He just hangs out with the other super dogs. They just get kind of boarded for space travel.
The Watch Kennel.
Ooh, yeah.
No.
Okay.
And I love Princess Shark specifically because we've been watching so much Harley Quinn.
So here's my thing. How do you feel about Kara? I'm a big Kara guy. I love her. I think she's great. She's hit or miss for a lot of people, but like, if you need a quick download on her, My Adventures with Superman is a fun take if it's a little weird. Sometimes she's drawn like she is an object, and sometimes she is given a full character. I love her. How do you feel about it?
I loved the character in this book. Who is Power Girl with the white suit and the boob window?
A different her.
Different universe?
Essentially. Like a more JSA version.
And they know each other?
Now.
Yeah. And so they hang out parallel.
Not really till recently. So Power Girl was always sort of like, I'm the other super. And everyone's like, yeah, you're kind of our Jason Todd. And like now they're a little bit more like, we love our Jason Todds. They sell t-shirts. Come on home. The WB said it's cool. So Power Girl is finally getting a little bit more like than boob window love. She's getting like boob door love.
So of course that's a little confusing to me. I like the character in this book. Who's from Earth Prime?
So like Earth Prime being like our world, like the main world?
Yeah.
Kara.
Supergirl?
Yeah.
Okay. And so Power Girl is an import.
Yeah, she's the one from like the JSA, like the Alan Scott stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like this character. I think this book. So one thing I do like that I feel like DC does a little bit better than Marvel is let genre happen in main story books. Maybe not even for the whole book, but for like a run or to start a book off, and then the genre kind of bleeds away. This felt like a little bit Archie. Like, even though it was superhero-y, it felt a little bit like teeny bopper fun. It's in a self-aware way, not in like a dumbed down or like an adult shouldn't buy or read this book way, but like it was trying to be a specific kind of a little more lighthearted genre. And I feel like with Marvel books, we only get that in something like Exterminators, and it's always a 4 or 5 issue mini, and then it's, you know, cut it off immediately. I would say like even Erica Schultz's stuff, be it Laura or Elektra, those being like kind of hard-boiled detective stories. Like we always complain about, Erica Schultz is not getting a full Daredevil run. And then everything that we get that gets 12 issues or more is house genre style, which means that like if you're a Fantastic Four book, you could be in space or you could be assisting Daredevil solving one drug deal crime, and it has to work for all of the above. If you are an X-Men book, you have to be as comfortable doing a moral story where the teens aren't all right as you are everybody confronts apocalypse, and it all has to work in the same book. It can be no genre, and it must be able to be all genres. I do feel like DC books are a little more willing to be like, this is fully a magic book, like a magical girl book. This is Zatanna. This is Hera having like kind of a Hallmark experience. Like, I'm going back to my hometown and everything's weird. With the art style too, it just feels a little more cartoony. All in ways that I think are positive. And anything I'm saying might sound like I'm saying it's limited, but in a way that the limitations are actually helping the story out, because it's not expected to be all things to all people. And that's what I got out of this one. I don't know where it will go from here, but I found myself in like a really comfortable I'm like fully in a lane, and I don't feel in issue 1 I didn't feel myself drifting into other lanes.
I really agree, because one of the things that this book gave us was such a focused, complete story on the things you're talking about, on the points it was trying to make. I feel the only other thing I want to really add, other than go out and buy it, it was a lot of fun. I kind of liked that the other Supergirl was like a little bit more real girl body type, so that it sort of seemed like, did you notice how the slutty one is evil? Like, not that should ever be the lesson, but it fits the story. So like there was a way where like this beautiful, much more realistic proportioned character, kind of, yeah, of course she's the real one, not the phony. The phony's skanky. And like, it was fun. The art was great. The storytelling was tight. I really do think that you're right, that there were maybe, like, you could have said the comb is how she transforms her hair. Great showing it. Say that it was part of her alter ego, that she would switch back and forth. Like, go a little bit further. Explain that she hid her clothes in trees all over the city. Like, or make those things clear.
Or don't. Like, I'm fine if you don't, but then the fact that you did do so much time. I mean, that first page has 2 gigantic text blocks that aren't even like internal narration almost. They're just literally, this is her story, which is fine. But DC, don't be afraid to just steal from Marvel, because they're stealing from you. Just do data pages, guys. It's fine. We can have a little bit of prose in our graphic media. But yeah, there was a lot of Wikipedia-ing. maybe both too much and not enough.
And one of the things, like, there were places where you said it was limited and simplistic. If I did want to say something really positive, I think that the places that the art didn't go so detailed made the book cooler.
Yes.
Made the book
Yeah. Pop art.
Fun.
Yep.
Had much more of a fresh feel, much less tortured. Sometimes these beautiful pages are beautiful, but they're so fucking tortured. This was light, effortless, easy, fun.
Basically any Superman book, unless again it's like a Mike Allred take on a Superman story. If Superman is going to or looking at the fucking glass case with the Phantom Zone in it, it is just angst. It is just misery and angst as soon as the Phantom Zone shows up for Superman in main stories. Kara's like, oh yeah, I forgot it's my turn to watch. Hope the cat doesn't knock it off the fucking pedestal. And then she goes in, and even the kind of sad thing of the lycanthrope bad guy who is just trying to be rehabilitated is like even still kind of a lighthearted, like, oh, this is a thing that's happening. I'll do my best to fix it. And it all works. It all works.
I did also really appreciate when Laron showed up, and then she was like, no, I won't take responsibility for him.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah.
But I'll help you guys find solutions.
Because that, again, even that is like a little bit more of a lighthearted, like, she's like, no, you're not getting one on me. And it's not meant to be funny, but it's, in this case, it works better to acknowledge, like, oh, I'm not capable of doing that. There's something very lighthearted about that versus Superman being like, I will take on yet another burden on my Atlas-sized shoulders. And no matter how much it brings me down, I must do it because with great power comes great responsibility, but the DC version. Yeah, I mean, I kind of expect heroes to do that all the time. So sure, if that had happened, I would have been like, oh, okay. But the much more interesting thing is to go, no, I cannot actually do that. That's too much responsibility for a 12-year-old. I will do something else instead.
And that's actually where I really did not enjoy Superman Unlimited.
Tell it to me.
It was familiar in a way that felt reductive. But beyond that, it felt so much like, and I can't remember which run of Iron Man. I think he only had one number one, actually. It felt a lot like Dan Slott's Iron Man number one. I feel like it's sometimes tough hearing Dan Slott be like, media can be misleading, when I see him vaguely be misleading for Marvel all the time. The overwhelming story, oh no, we couldn't have predicted this thing. Oh nope, it turns out it's a big ball of kryptonite, and you're gonna think about your whole past, and then you're gonna wake up and now you're just fucking gold. And like, this maybe would have been cooler as 8 pages in an all-in kind of like special than giving it its own one shot that was like 38 pages. I just didn't learn anything but the plot. I should learn something that isn't the plot.
Yeah, this felt like Slott. Oh God, I'm so scared to say any of this. If I don't survive the week, you guys just know that I was criticizing a Dan Slott issue of comics.
He also asked for a Eurovision recount, you guys.
This felt like him putting his flag on Superman, which we've seen him do. I've seen him do on many a Marvel property. And we see so many older white men of this age and creative bracket do the exact same thing, where they're like, nope, you need to know my take on this character. Like, time to get into it. And, I thought the moment, I loved the spirit of the idea that Superman could even just hear a meek little girl playing her guitar, and part of saving the world is going to her and saying, keep it up, kid. I really like the ethos behind that. I did not love the execution in a series of events, all of which sort of contributed to the pages that could have been removed in order to have this be your 8 concise ones. All of the pages of him, I stopped a robber, I helped the ship, I did the thing, and last but not least, I told a little girl to keep it up. While that moment to me was crystalline in its beauty as compared to the other ones, which are sort of standard, like, of course, he's strong enough to lift a ship, so he went and lifted a ship. Not super impressive to me. I get that he does that. That's the most Wikipedia thing ever. The fact that the last mission was just make a little girl feel good about herself. Beautiful, really sweet, but because it is the end cap in what is otherwise just like Superman 101, it devalues that moment. It adds to a page count of noise that, quite frankly, even if you are a child, I don't know what to do with you if you don't already know this information. I don't know. This can't be your first issue. And I'm sorry. I can't be. Now's the part where I got to go off on Raphael Albuquerque a little bit. Why does everybody look like they're tweaking, Raphael?
That's Raphael Albuquerque.
I know. I don't know. It really doesn't work here. I really have enjoyed it other places, and here,
American Vampire and Superman cannot sell the same vibe.
That's I think what I'm saying. And then also like the media conglomerate thing. I don't know what to do with that. Lois being in bed with Lady Rupert Murdoch, who is like, oh man, your husband sucks, and she has to be like, no, he's actually great. This is such a weird thing because we know that she knows that he's super. It's just, there's a lot happening. And then we go into what is actually the story, which is that there's a comet and it's full of kryptonite. It's just made of kryptonite. And so that we get 2 pages of what is really the story. Then we go back to Wikipedia and just relive Superman's whole life as told by a bunch of tweakers.
As told by Superman, like, just kind of like...
And he keeps going like, and then that happened. Can't forget that happened. Oh, remember her?
What a time.
Wild stuff.
My balls and James.
And then he's like, oh man, I really got to fix this. Fixed it. And everybody's like, you're not doing great. Scene.
Oh. Okay, and now he's gold.
Yeah, now issue number 2 will happen. I think you're right. 8 pages just establishing that this is the story. I would have bought into, I guess. I don't know, because I also don't know. This is another thing where I get into like, I've never been inundated with Superman eats too much kryptonite, gets slapped in the face with too much kryptonite, it gets a kryptonite suppository and didn't mean to. So I don't know how many times this happens where it's just too much kryptonite and then something happens.
Yeah, I've never seen him produce gold lube before. This was nuts.
Yeah, so I just don't know if this is like, okay, here's yet another Superman did too much kryptonite with a different weird effect, or if this is this feels like it can't be the first time a writer was like, what if too much kryptonite?
Can't be, no.
So I don't know, because that's the thing is, anytime Wolverine has adamantium poisoning, I've been there for it. I've been there. I've seen it go in. I've seen it go out. All right, calm down, Paul Rubens.
I'm a vampire. I can do anything. Oh yeah.
No, that's Rutka. Every time there's too much webbing or not enough webbing, I've been there for it with Spider-Man. So I know not to be impressed. But I don't know with Superman. And so sometimes they can trick me for a little bit. But even here, I just had a sense of like, this can't be the first time too much kryptonite. And so I'm not as impressed by Goldman.
Yeah, and I feel like even the Spin Doctors did it once, you know what I mean? And so, like, you hit a point, pocket full of kryptonite, and so you hit a point where you're like...
I really just sat there going, two princes.
Yes. No, you know, when I think about, like, Superman's been around for a trillion years, what do you do with him now? You got to tell new stories, you got to tell the old stories, you got to do a mix of it. I think where I'm just a little bit lost is how the fuck is this the summer of Superman, unless you're just saying, oh, the movie's coming out. But then that's not the summer of Superman, and that's just an advertising campaign. That's not doing something in the comics. And they're clearly doing something in the comics. Whether it's the fact that Lois had Zod's powers, and now this giant, you know, kryptonite comet, and Superman was out of commission for 3 months. What's that going to mean? Are we going to see stories about what happened in those 3 months? Are we going to find out that this Supergirl story took place in that time? What's going on with this? Maybe this is where that Wolverine Spider-Man story goes, and that's why we can't figure it out, you know? So I don't mean to be hard on Dan Slott, but when you are one of the most famous names in the history of comics, it is impossible to talk about your work without an extra microscope. And extra microscope, boy, it's, you know, that's my superpower. I'm an extra microscope boy, and I'm here to, like, you know, examine this shit. And
also,
you know,
we championed that man's Spider-Verse work, Spider-Geddon work, so I feel like we get a bit of a pass.
It's getting tougher for me to feel convinced that Mark Waid's Superman plan is going to be seen to fruition on its own. I think he might have to make some compromises, and he might just get to do the Justice League stuff. We're going to see what happens with this crossover. I feel really good about this week. Actually, I was like, oh, we're just reading whatever we're reading to get through the week. But I actually feel kind of good about these books. I feel good about what we read. I feel maybe more positive than I thought I did, even though I pointed out a bunch of negatives. I didn't love anything but Supergirl this week, but I loved Supergirl enough for all of us. And also, break yourself, yeah, no, for real. Superman does have some serious depression issues. Most super feeling people often feel super low. So, but I do feel pretty positive about where we're going. How about you?
I feel all over the place. I really do agree that Supergirl was actually just such a refreshing reminder that, like, we can do this. We can make great books, like, and we can make great books that are not a big deal. Like, not every great book has to feel like it matters constantly. Not every great book has to feel like it's going to be part of a big crossover that will change the universe it comes from forever. Sometimes it can just be a really good number one. It can just get it right, be a genre book, be in its lane, have good art, be fun. This was not a perfect book. Like I said, it was both too much Wikipedia and not enough. But that also led to me being interested and informed and not knowing everything, so wanting to know more. So I do really feel positive about that. I feel really positive about the ideas in Steve Orlando's head. And
the gay thoughts.
I love the gay thoughts. And, you know, honestly, his vibe of Vision and Scarlet Witch's romance and this weird thing where, like, they're parents to two children together, and his Vision's other children in Viv and Vin are, like, vaguely modeled after what if he'd had a life with Scarlet Witch, and Scarlet Witch has had a role model relationship to Viv. There's just a lot there, and there's this beautiful moment where they almost touch hands. They almost hold hands when they talk about how they want to do this together. Like, the challenge that they're facing, they want to face it together. There's a lot here that was super beautiful. And my thing is, unlike Supergirl, which feels like it matters a solid amount, not too much, not too little. This feels like, because I know how Marvel rolls, not because Steve Orlando's a problem, because I know how Marvel rolls, this feels like it doesn't matter at all because I know where it is in the publishing cycle. I know what book specifically matters that is overshadowing it. In this case, that's Avengers. I know one of two things is either going to happen. The likely one is that this just is going to be done and does not matter. Or two, if there's some kind of event coming up that is going to tell me that this is really important, that I have read all these Steve Orlando books, it's going to come like a ham fist. It's going to come too hard, randomly, and Jackson Lanzig is going to be the one writing that one. So what's it going to matter anyway? So I just, I'm tired of Marvel's old tricks, but I always love their creative teams. And I really do think Steve Orlando has brilliant ideas. Spider-Man and Wolverine are always going to be doing things, and I will just read them and see what happens.
What else can you do? I mean, because you're saying you love the art, but you kind of don't always love the company producing the artists. And what else can we do but agree? Speaking of the people who produce these artists, Kevo, your tireless work producing this show, so good. We could not do it without you. We love you so much. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at KEVO Really. That's KEVO and I love you guys too. Industries go through weird periods. People go through weird periods. Something that I always love about you guys as comics coverage, though, is that you still love the medium. You want it to be good. You're not, people in fandoms who are like, destroy. You are looking for it to be better. You are always looking to give it a chance. And you are always trying to give constructive feedback rather than just be nasty. And that is such an important part of wanting the art to thrive. And so I like that. And I'm excited for this summer and the fun things that we have to cover, because we've got, like you said, maybe we'll cover Superman the movie when it comes out. Who knows? But we definitely have a Marvel movie coming out. So there's always that. There's always fun stuff. So check out our channel for plenty of other coverage, like our Eurovision coverage from this past weekend, and lots of other fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, we have to see that fucking movie. So, TK, speaking of Superman, I love to see, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at TK Accidental. What about you, Nico?
You guys can check out my music, Nico Action Music, NICOACTION, You guys can check out my social media at Nico Action, NICOACTION. You guys can check out all of our amazing feeds of this show at HTML, that's Husbands Talking More or Less, X is for Podcast, with amazing podcast feeds of this and our other content. That's those two channels. But of course, right here on YouTube at X is for Show. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, because we love you. We love you guys. We think you're amazing. We think you're really cool. We believe in you. We want to see you guys achieve all of your dreams. And we know that one of those dreams is continuing to watch us regularly. So achieve it. But no, 3 things you guys can do for yourselves, because it's really fucking important, right? Number 1, you guys can stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. Number 2, you guys can be brave, because we love who you are. But speaking of who you are, number 3, you guys can evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, who you are today, but who you are tomorrow, I don't have enough fucking hands. So you guys are going to be so incredible then, and we'll see you.